Good evening. I've got a few different things I'm going to weave together, but I'm going to start off. What I'm about to read, this poem, many of you have heard it. This is a poem that we offer in the very first interview that we give, an interview, or you might know it as a koan interview or kongan interview, but the very first time one meets with me privately, this poem is given to you. So I'm going to read it, and to telegraph a little bit, it has to do with life and death, and that's going to impact some of this talk. The human root. Coming empty-handed, going empty-handed, that is human. When you are born, where do you come from? When you die, where do you go? Life is like a floating cloud which appears. Death is like a floating cloud which disappears. The floating cloud itself originally does not exist. Life and death, coming and going, are also like that. But there is one thing which always remains clear. It is pure and clear, not depending on life and death. At that point, we then ask a question. Then what is the one pure and clear thing? So there were two deaths that I heard about this week that I want to talk about. One of them was Stephen Hawking's, who, interestingly, just towards the very end, or we sat an 8-day meditation retreat here 2 weeks ago. I think just after the retreat, I saw an article that he wrote postulating multiple universes. And I read a little of it, I barely understood what he was talking about. But yet that idea of multiple universes is mind-boggling. And I'll get back to that point. But the other death that I want to talk about, there's a Zen master in Japan named Tangan Harada Roshi Sama. And he died this week. He was about 92 years old. And as some of my Facebook acquaintances have put up teachings of his, I didn't know of him myself, although I believe a man, Gemun Sanim, who is our teacher in Singapore, did a fair amount of practice with this Roshi in Japan. He lived in northern Japan. And his teaching, I want to just read to you an example of his teaching. So, if I editorialize a little bit, it's very good Zen. So, sorry, this is not so easy. It's called This One Thing. Please, please see it. Everything is alive. Great, great, alive. This is the happiness of all happiness. And this, now here, can never be destroyed. The light of your eternal life is shining brightly now. What joy there is in this radiance. Please take care of yourself, your shining Buddha self. Become ever more able to appreciate your Buddha self. That is not to say be arrogant. There is nowhere, anyone to feel small, no one to be made small, no one to feel superior, and no one toward whom you could feel superior. So who are you to feel vain and proud when your very source is all being? You are supported, you are nurtured, you are guarded by all being. Thanks to all being, together, one is all the universe. This breath is breathed so close, always one, always together. Never forsake the limitless treasure which is you yourself. Be in touch. Simply do not look away. Grasp nothing. Hold nothing. There is just now, here, fresh, new, alive, now. Just do your practice with all good grace. What more could you ask for? Just now. This is it. Just now. This is the manifestation of everything. Our basic problem is this sense of separateness, this belief that my physical body is a separate organism. That viewpoint separates us, and we lose contact with the reality of all things being connected, alive, breathing right now. There's a Zen aphorism, if you will. It says, I'm going to say it the way I've read it, and then I'm going to work with the languaging a little bit. It says, see true nature, become Buddha. See true nature, become Buddha. It's a little bit dualistic the way it's written. True nature is Buddha. Harada Roshi already told us, true nature is the connection of all things. We already have it. We are it. So, as I said at the beginning of this talk, we sat 8 days here in this room. We started the last Friday in February, so we finished, I guess it was March 3rd, so about 11 days ago. I've done, well, I guess I can't say hundreds of these longer retreats, but I can say probably, well, let's say this way. We've been sitting the 8-day retreat here at Empty Gate for 18 years. I've been practicing a long time before that. I've done many of these longer retreats, and because I'm a teacher, I do at least one weekend retreat a month. I'm constantly on either going to retreat or coming back from retreat. And during this retreat, many things were fascinating. But I had this feeling at the end of the retreat, and it came about some from my own experience, some from listening to the rest of us as we go around the circle at the end of a long retreat and we talk about our experience. And a lot of times we're on retreat, we're stuck in our minds, we're thinking about particular things that are going on in our life. I was working with somebody today in my psychotherapy practice who, separate Sangha, came back from a retreat and had some very old memories, which really helped her get a sense of her life right now. Memories went back 50, 60 years, something that was almost forgotten. And that is one thing that happens on retreat, and it can be very valuable. We say, understand, what am I? So what Harada was talking about is, what am I underneath the conditioned thinking? But of course we live in this world of conditionality. So when we're sitting a retreat, a lot of our life just unfolds naturally before us. And our job is to just witness, just watch. And we do learn many things that are helpful. But I realized that there's something else going on that's probably more to the point. That in some ways this understanding specifics about this happened to me back then, now I see I get into all this kind of trouble. If I did it differently, I won't get into as much trouble in my life. And for many of us, we have those realizations and actually make changes in our lives that make big differences. So this is really important. But what Harada Roshi was pointing to was our basic nature that we don't really understand. And we can't think our way to it. We have to experience it. And what I noticed on the retreat, some people had a really nice experience, some people had a very difficult experience. There were many different things said. But the feeling that I had, and going around the room I could hear, there's a quality of sitting in meditation where you are, the word I came up with, let's see if it works for you, we're actually, in a sense, communing with true nature. If you strip away all the thoughts, ideas, feelings, sensations, we're taking time out of our life to be with what we already are, that we have forgotten about or have drifted away from because we're more involved in the particularities of the changing flow of our life. An image I often use is that we get attached and focused on the cloud and we forget that we're the whole sky. So when we do retreat, actually what we did tonight was just this, communing with true nature. And as we have that recognition, if you will, already we see we are Buddha. We don't have to become Buddha. We don't have to see our true nature so then we can become Buddha. If we use that phrase, see our true nature, we see our true nature and perceive we already are it and have already been it. It's not like we achieve something new and then we become something else. We return to what we already are. In this poem, The Human Root, he says, life is like a floating cloud which appears. Death is like a floating cloud which disappears. The floating cloud itself originally does not exist. So our life does come into existence. Time passes, we get older, and we die. But there is one thing which always remains clear. It is pure and clear, not depending on life and death. It's as if out of this one pure and clear thing comes the many. So, one more phrase for you, one more Zen phrase. The one is the many is the one. Stephen Hawking's talking about multiple universes, trying to understand the nature of reality. So, my probably primitive view of understanding of science, but I think our conventional view of science, said that this universe as we know it began with a Big Bang about 13 billion years ago. Right now, sitting here in this room is the actual result of the Big Bang. We are it. The one exploded. And this group of the many is right here, right now, directly following from that Big Bang. We feel like it's slow because it's 13 billion years ago. But right now is the manifestation of the Big Bang, and we are it. The one is the many. We are the one. We come from there, we return to there. On some level, you could say, if you take a timescape of 13 billion years, nothing changes. But everything is always new, alive, fresh, right now. The one is the many is the one. Right now, we are the manifestation of it. What do we do with it? That's up to us. Our problem is that we're locked in our own conditionality. We're stuck. We believe our storyline. We have these experiences that sequentially and over time there's a buildup of what we call a self. And in our daily life, we act from that self. We see things through the perspective of that self, and we, in a sense, reify that self through the confirmation bias of the feedback that we take in from our actions. We're in a constant state of creating this solid self. The radical practice of sitting Zen is the radical practice of beginning and working with the deconstruction of that constructed self. Seeing into the, can't think of the word, the inconsistencies. If you investigate and slow things down, you start to see that the story that we think makes so much sense makes no sense. It's a construction that we use to find some stability and security in the world. Zen is a radical process. In a sense, we're trying to pull the rug out from underneath that fantasy of solidity and security and open us into the magnificence and incredible mystery of now. Now is the only moment we're alive. All the past is a dream. It didn't happen the way we think it did. All the future is a fantasy, a projection of the past into the future, mixed with our hopes and dreams and fantasies of what might be. But right now, there's sound. That sensation on my hand. Feel the floor. Hit it. Feel it. Go ahead. Feel it. There's a whole sensation. Your hand feels something. Your ears hear something. There's a whole world right in this moment. Sometimes I think so much happens for me in my life, I guess I'd call it, although it's not my life, that it seems like there's enough experience in my world to fill up a whole universe. And yet, each one of us in this room has a whole universe of experiences. When you walked into this room, you brought that universe with you. Remember the Peanuts character Pigpen? Pigpen had like a cloud of dust around him all the time. In the comic strip, he was dirty. in our lives, we carry the universe of our making all around us. We walk in a room and people read us. What are they reading? Sometimes we say they're reading energy, or maybe they're just reading that whole invisible universe that we bring in. So, my universe, your universe, that's two. Multiple universes. And just imagine this, how vast this universe is. You look at those pictures from the Hubble spacecraft with billions of galaxies in all of these incredible shapes and formations. We have no idea what they are. And just imagine if there's one explosion, why not 100? Why not 1,000? Why not 1 billion? Why not infinite? It's so vast. But without you and me, the universe doesn't exist. Right now, we create it. Right now, it's alive. Right now is the manifestation of the Big Bang. We are that Big Bang. We are that expression of the universe. We're like an individual droplet of universal substance. That's what Harada Roshi was saying. We think we're this one thing separate from every other thing. But maybe a better way of conceptualizing it is that we're everything encapsulated in this one thing. That's why if I truly understand my own nature, then I understand true nature. I've said this many times, but when I was doing my master's thesis, I came across a quote by a Japanese man writing about Zen, and he said, or it might have been a she actually, let's say she said, the study of philosophy is the study of human beings. The practice of Zen is the study of I. When you truly understand I, you understand this world. When you commune with true nature, there's a connection that happens. There's a soothing that happens. Almost universally. Sometimes people have very bad, difficult experiences on a meditation retreat, and then it's lousy. It feels lousy. Sometimes it's a wonderful experience, but it's too much. But for the most part, there's a deep joy and happiness that comes out of deep practice that transcends the misery and the difficulty of sitting in this room for 13 hours in a day asking this great question, what am I? Because we're so focused towards our likes and dislikes and our cognitive and emotional experience that it's hard to perceive that communing with the true nature. But it's happening. As we get more connected to what we truly are, we become more congruent, more authentic, and more able to, in a less self-conscious and more open and immediate, spontaneous way, be alive. And for me, at least, that's the point. Right now, show yourself. Right now, be alive. Right now, face it. Right now, breathe. Right now, when we're walking, we are the Buddha walking. There's no separation. Your walk may look different than my walk, but you are the Buddha walking, I am the Buddha walking. And Buddha is just a name. It's hard to get out of names. Be fully yourself, fully alive, with some freedom from your constructed reality. And you already are it. It's like it takes a lifetime to do this work. We have moments of inspiration. We have moments of awakening. And then we clarify our life. So we have these precepts that offer us a way to live this human life in a way that helps bring us closer to our true nature and helps us create less suffering for ourselves and those around us. Even Zen masters can cause a lot of suffering if they're not paying attention and they're not looking into those spaces that are unclear. So it's a lifetime's work to take the reflection that this universe gives us and to look at it and to use it to deepen our practice, to get closer to that true nature and to get closer to that ability to live a life that helps, that offers peace and some sense of love and compassion to the world. Easy to say, hard to do. It takes practice. And that's what we do here. We take time to commune with what we don't understand. And we take that experience and work to actualize it in our daily life.